wonder what's the difference between a Christian guy and somebody who is not aware of Jesus as their savior. Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Here on this vlog, I hope to inspire, encourage, and empower the single, unique you in the season of Moira and Jason. You know, I don't really have a structure for the day. I usually have a type of plan of what I want to share, but I really truly want to speak from my heart and also rant in a way. And a lot of you single Christian girls, ladies, are going to resonate with how I feel. And I want to apologize in advance if there are things that I may be saying out of my butt or saying things that are just inaccurate, inappropriate, or the observations that I've made all throughout this years. I hope that I'm not offending anybody, and this is really my personal take based on personal experience. And I don't know, I just have a lot of insight to share regarding this very discouraging and disheartening news about Jason and Moi. So yeah. So recently I shared with my mother, that I had plans of if you hear stuff like that in the background, I apologize. Again, this is not the best place to vlog and do some recordings because it's always very loud around here. I usually vlog at the other place. Also, my fan is on. I usually turn it off while I'm vlogging, but it's super hot. I don't know how this is going to sound eventually, but as long as my voice is clear, then we're all good. So I had shared with my mom that I signed up on a dating app, and a lot of my friends who are married and have met their husbands online were definitely in support of this decision. And I'm really not super conservative when it comes to these things and the way we do things these days, because you know, kailangan #open-minded tayo, diba? So I'm really fine with the way dating has turned out to be. And for single women who are in their late 30s like me, you gotta find ways to meet people, right? So I'm okay to sign up and try this option. There really is no shame to it. Yes, there's a little bit of a cringe factor because, you know, usually there's this stigma of what dating online could be perceived as, but there are a lot of good things that could happen on the app as well. So I shared that with my mom, and she told me to go to churches and volunteer and just hope that I meet somebody in church. And I got all defensive. I was not very okay with that feedback because I've been in church. I grew up in church. I've been hurt by a lot of people in church. These are people who are worship leaders and leaders of the church. And I'm talking within the context of a romantic relationship. So in all of these things that I'm gonna say, I'm not trying to say don't ever get involved with a Christian man. That is still something that I will hold dear to me, that I want to be with somebody who shares the same values that I do or belief system. But I have a lot of emotion regarding the idea of Christian men these days, or Christian singles. So back to what my mom said about meeting other Christians. I frowned upon the idea a bit because first of all, there are always more than 50% women who are volunteers. So try to observe that. Go to different churches. I've been to big churches. I'm sorry for saying this if you're part of that church, but let's keep it real. I've been to GCF, I've been to CCF, Victory, and Favor. I've been involved in all these churches, And if you notice, a lot of the volunteers are women. And then you have a fraction of guys who are volunteering, who are very into the word. But guess what? They're either very young or you're just not attracted to them. Let's keep it real. Just because the guy is Christian, just because he reads the word, he worships, if you guys don't have chemistry and you guys are not attracted to each other, there's no point. Obviously, all of us want to meet somebody that we're equally attracted to, and I'm not gonna just sit around here and say, no, it's just important that he's Christian and okay na yun sa akin. No, I want to be attracted to the guy that I want to spend the rest of my life with. Don't judge me if I say that in that fraction of guys who are volunteers, there are not a lot of guys who are actually okay with your standard or your preference of the kind of guy that you like. I remember my friend who is already actually in her late 40s, and people just kept teasing her to this guy that she's friends with, and I grew up hearing that they were being teased to each other, and I never really understood that when I was young, but now I get it. It's just because there's no chemistry. They just view themselves, or they just view each other as friends. And so with what my mom was saying about church hopping and getting involved in church, can I just say that it's so discouraging to do that these days? Because yet again, I've been involved in so many churches, and there are just way too many women in church. Another fraction of what's making me so heated up is that a lot of guys who are involved in church are not so confident. I don't know why, but I think that it's part of our culture. There are a lot of guys who would rather just pray and see if it is God's will to even talk to somebody. Again, I'm not trying to hate on anything. It's just the reality of things, that it's very difficult to interact sometimes with Christian men. And it's not the most ideal setup sometimes, because as women, sometimes we have this strong personality and we don't appreciate passivity sometimes. So when you have this as your option, it's a little frustrating. This is not to say that the church is a horrible place to find singles. It is still a great place to find single men. It is. I've met people in church and I've dated people in church. Di lang tumagal, pero I've dated them and I met them in church. But in line with this situation with Moira and Jason, can I just say how disheartening and discouraging it is to discover that a man of God would fall. It is so discouraging that in this world full of the lack of good quality Christian men, you are faced with this news of Jason and Moi, and then you're just in this great disbelief that where else can we find a good Christian man? And the reason why I say something like this is because I've been hurt by worship leaders and leaders of the church, and I never expected that they would do me wrong that way. And so I feel like, is the church really a place? Is it really now something that we have to find in a future partner? These are just some thoughts that I have. We hold Christianity in the pedestal. We think and we hope that the guy who's Christian has a higher moral standard or has a higher level of conviction. But if you're faced with a news like this, it makes us wonder, what's the difference? What's the difference between a Christian guy and somebody who is not aware of Jesus as their savior? There's such a great disconnect there, and I I feel really discouraged with everything that's happening. And back to the feedback that I got regarding dating online, I just didn't have that desire anymore because it's all just the same. So what's the point? And these are just my thoughts. Yet again, I just have to make it clear that I'm not trying to say, or I'm not trying to imply that I should not consider a Christian guy anymore. That's not something that I wish to really impart. But it's just the idea of discouragement. It's just this conflicting argument or debate that I have within myself regarding Christian men. And I'm pretty sure, there are Christian guys who've experienced the same with Christian girls. There probably are so many stories that I'm not aware of. But with what I've heard lately, and also with my own experiences, not just Jason and Moi, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you girls can resonate with this feeling that I have. No offense to Jason if he ever watches this, I don't think so, but if word actually gets to him about this, I'm sorry. I'm just trying to keep it real. I still believe that dating and marrying a Christian man is a non-negotiable, and I will never compromise on that regardless of how I feel right now. It's just that I've gotten so disillusioned by this idea of a Christian guy, and maybe the issue is we need to accept that Christians are imperfect, and we need to accept and always keep reminding ourselves that the only perfect being is God. And I think that as Christians, when we've waited so long, I've mentioned it earlier, I'm in my late 30s, and if I have waited so long and then eventually I get faced with not an opportunity, but if I get faced with something such as this, how am I going to go through it? I have to have this perspective, and I have to keep reminding myself that this man is a sinner, and I choose to marry a sinner. And that's what I think as Christian women, as we are in the season of waiting, that we always remind ourselves that no matter how picture perfect this guy is fully man. This guy is so imperfect, and he will fail you. And I think that with what's going on with the discussion lately about Moi and Jason, I think that we need to try to reel that back in, that people are going to fail you, and that dating online is okay. So I did tweet about this, and all I said was, I will consider dating online to see what my options are apart from church, because these days you either get a super passive praying guy or a verse quoting cheater, and it's really not all strikingly different anymore. The reason why I'm also doing this is because I have another couple of friends who I learned are no longer together, and one of them was a leader in the church. And then also, just a few days ago, my parents celebrated their 43rd wedding anniversary. And so you have this all in your head, and you're faced with this reality of anything can happen regardless if they're Christian or not. They will fail you. We need to stop glorifying the idea of a Christian man and really raise the standard of who God is. Because the more that we are involved with God, the more we fall in love with Him, the more we see things or see life through His eyes, such as like seeing it that we're all sinners and He died for us because we needed Him. I guess it just puts things in perspective. There are two ways of seeing it. Either encourages you to wait more, and second, it allows you to train your mind with the fact that no matter how involved this Christian is, there is that small fraction of him failing or disappointing you, because again, he is man, he is imperfect. And the reason why I say, you know, it encourages you to wait more is because I remember my friend who is married to a Christian, and they've been having problems with their marriage, and she's actually considering leaving because he is off with somebody else. And she was encouraging me to just wait. And she's like, you know what, Ginge, the stress that you're experiencing now is so much better compared to the stress that you would go through when you have marital problems. And when she said that, I was like, oh, yeah, that is true. Like, I would rather go through this season rather than be with somebody who actually doesn't want to be with me anymore. And that's so difficult to fathom. So, you know, this is a rant, I guess, in a way. And I was a little emotional earlier with how I was expressing myself, and it's just that it makes you question a lot of things about good quality Christian men. Where are they, and why are they not any different from somebody who does not read the Bible or does not know Christ? What is the difference? And now I think that more and more we are getting more aware of possibilities of a failed Christian marriage, the more we train our minds to the fact that nobody is perfect. And all the more in this season of waiting, we need to really, truly hide our hearts in God. And what I mean to say by that is just share the perspective, the biblical perspective towards man and towards God. We should not put the idea or the concept of God and man together. And that's a huge, faulty, shaky foundation when we get into relationships. Man will fail us, and God will never, ever make us question His love, His integrity, His faithfulness, and His grace over us. So, if you are planning to sign up on a freaking dating app, let me know in the chat. So I won't feel alone, but go do it. I shared it with a friend that I am planning to sign up on a dating app, and she's like, go do it. I fully support. So I hope this vlog helps. If it did, please consider liking, sharing, and subscribing to this channel. I'll see you guys next time.